I just played every God of War ever to find out how this bald, angry dude started one of the greatest action-adventure franchises, and also one of the most successful that Sony has ever made. Starting with the first ever God of War, released in 2005 for the PS2. The story's interesting. You play as Kratos, a bald, angry Spartan dude who looks like Pitbull with chains for arms, and who's mad as hell and wants everyone dead because he got tricked into ending his own family by a bunch of gods.
Took that from me. Killed that from me!
So now he's on a blood-soaked revenge trip, smashing gods and monsters like they owe him money. The graphics are incredible. I mean, not by today's standards, obviously. This was in 2005. Everything looked like ass in 2005. But not God of War. No, this thing looked like a Hollywood epic. The fighting is iconic. You're swinging those chain blades around, getting combos, brutal finishers, and with boss fights so grand and big you think you're in a WWE match. You know, the ones with the flames and the cages and chains and stuff. The Hydra one's the wildest. You jump in its mouth and stab its brain from the inside. That's some Mortal Kombat level stuff right there. Very creative. The camera is fixed in cinematic, so you get that movie vibe, even if sometimes you just want to see where you're going. I have no idea where he's going. I mean, I'd love to know, but I don't think the game wants to tell me. And the movement is pretty straightforward. You climb, jump, and swing. No fancy acrobatics that take away from the smashing and slashing. The enemy AI is not smart. Okay, I mean, it's not the Marines from Halo Combat Evolved or Big Rigs. I mean, at least they attack in groups, and sometimes they even block. And if you get really lucky, they might put their two brain cells together and rush you. The maps are linear, but filled with traps, puzzles, and cool spots to explore. Like, imagine John Wick, but every few minutes he had to rotate giant concrete rings. I'm just kidding, nobody needs to do that in this game. Obviously, they prioritize action, and none of this stuff is too distracting or slows that down. The dudes who made this game, Santa Monica Studios, basically just said, hey, let's make Devil May Cry, but make it angrier and bloodier. The game won not one, not two, but multiple Game of the Year awards. But that's not all. It also made Kratos the poster child for PlayStation badassery and set the standard for action games for years to come. Plus, franchise money is the best kind of money. In 2007, we got one of the greatest PS2 games ever made, and the same pissed off Spartan with zero impulse control in God of War 2. And make sure to click that like and subscribe button, and let me know in the comments below which God of War game is your favorite and why. The game starts off with him walking around Greece like he's Tobey Maguire in that evil Spider-Man scene. God, the lip movement in this game is terrible. Anyways, Zeus is now sick of Kratos going all Terminator, so he tricks him, stabs him in the gut, and strips him of his god powers.
It did not have to be this way, my son.
Big mistake. Kratos comes back swinging, swearing he'll kill Zeus and literally every god that stands in his way.
You will pay for this, Zeus. Be certain of that.
The campaign's basically a Greek soap opera with time travel, betrayal, Titan team-ups, and more rage and sadness than a Brown season ticket holder. But the best thing about this game isn't even the story, it's this. No, not that. Just kidding. This. The combat is just meaner. You still have your Blades of Chaos, but now Kratos picks up new toys like the Barbarian Hammer and the Spear of Destiny, which are the least creative weapons names that anyone can come up with. But I guess they used all their creativity to max out the violence attribute of the whole game. I mean, there's different weapons, different movesets, and somehow more violence. But the greatest thing is the bosses. In the first 10 minutes, you're already fighting the Colossus of Rhodes, this Statue of Liberty looking dude who stomps around like Godzilla, and later you fight against the Sisters of Fate, who look like three evil librarians mated with giant insects. Alright, either these guys are really good, or I'm just really bad at this. The graphics are insane. Even though they released this thing on the PS2 while the PS3 was out.
What? Why? Why?
But who cares? Maybe it was the last flex of what that little amazing black box was capable of. The levels are massive, the creatures are huge, and the animations are smoother than Kratos' dome. Even the sound design slaps with orchestral chanting, orchestral scores, and the sweetest sound of all. I swear I hear that in my dreams at this point. But there is a big problem. While the movement is tighter than the first game, with better climbing, swinging, and more environmental puzzles, the camera is still locked. I mean, yeah, sometimes it's badass when it pulls away and you get to see this giant titan in front of you. But sometimes it's like, hey, I can't see that dude trying to end my bloodline off screen. Thanks. But it's okay, because the AI is smarter. I don't actually know if it's smarter, but feels like it is. Enemies roll out in bigger squads, and some of them even dodge this time. Oh, but my favorite thing is the maps. You get temples dangling off cliffs, time portals, hidden chests everywhere, and even some dude's actual body as a level. But there's a big twist this time. Made by the same Santa Monica studio that brought us the first one, this one was directed by some dude named Cody Balrog. Holy Christ, Barlog. Either a big dude name or a big dude name. Okay, that makes sense in my own head. I think you guys know. Guy was probably like, what if we make every scene feel like a cutscene, but you're still smashing monsters? The game hit like an Obama Predator-trone with sales in the millions and critics giving it 9s and 10s across the board. Because for a sequel, it did exactly what you want. More spectacle, better combat, bigger bosses, and a cliffhanger. That's right. Kratos rides the Titans up Mount Olympus for round 2 with Zeus. It pretty much left everyone foaming at the mouth for God of War 3. No lie, it's still in best PS2 games of all time lists. Oh wait, but surprisingly, there are some awesome glitches too. But before we get to the greatest God of War game of all time, we have to talk about the only God of War game so far not released on the PlayStation. That's right, made by some company called Java Ground. God of War Betrayal came out in June 2007 as one of those 2D Java mobile phone games for those old brick phones they had back then. Seriously, Kratos? On a flip phone screen the size of a post stamp? With the graphical fidelity of a brick. The story takes place between God of War 2 and Ghost of Sparta, which I'll get to in just a moment. This time, Kratos is framed for the ending of Argos, I guess as opposed to all the other crimes he actually committed, and ends up fighting a mysterious assassin. Classic Greek god soap opera. Movement is frustrating to say the least. You're pretty much limited to your phone's buttons, so imagine climbing on a flip phone, or rolling off a cliff accidentally when your thumb pressed the wrong button. Camera angles are the least of your worries in this game when your phone screen is literally your camera, and your phone's battery life is the actual boss. Speaking of bosses, there's no giant set-piece fight or epic combos. Not that you could pull those off on some Motorola Razr anyways.
No shit.
You basically mash your keypad and swing your blades of chaos from side to side. Enemies come at you in a straight line like they're lining up to get Kratos' autograph. The maps are simple 2D levels. That's me being very generous.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't think you'll regret it.
But we have to talk about looks. Kratos looks like the Roblox version of Jonathan Sins with red stripes. Enemies are stick figures in tunics. There's no orchestras, just crunchy, meaty sound effects and bleeps pretending to be sword swings. But for a Java mobile game in 2007, this was fine. I don't personally consider it one of the God of War games. Oh, and a year later, we got Chains of Olympus for the PCP. Wait, no, not PCP, PSP.
Now, who wants to buy some drugs?
God, that's a badass sounding name. Just saying it raises my T levels. But this one is special. It's a prequel where you play as Kratos before he killed Ares, back when he's still the Ghost of Sparta, working as a blunt enforcer for the Olympian gods. The story kicks off with you being sent to stop the Persian army from invading Greece, which turns into you basically demolishing the Persian king and their basilisk monster. But then the sun literally disappears and you have to save the god of son Helios for Persephone and Atlas and some others along the way. It's the classic Kratos story. Rage, tragedy, and more rage. Like, a lot more rage. The pool noodles of chaos are back, but this time you get some extra magic. Like fire attack and some sun spitball attack. And this game looks good. Seriously, in 2008, people couldn't believe how good this thing looked, especially for something portable. And it sounds like God of War again, too. The AI is fine. Mooks swarm you, bosses of patterns, I mean, nothing too crazy, but enough to keep you on your toes. Oh, the maps are big. You get temples, because you can't have an ancient Greek-based game without temples, dark dream realms, and underworld. But the biggest problem with this game is that it's way too short. It'll take you about 5 hours to beat the whole thing.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
And the story could have gone a little bit deeper. That's just me being a nitpicky little turd. For a handheld prequel, this game nailed it. And everyone agreed, since it was one of the biggest PSP hits ever, and it proved Sony could do big AAA games on handhelds. Can this franchise even make a bad game?
No.
Turns out the guys who made this over at Ready at Dawn are not done yet when they come out with another game later. But is it gonna be as good? Oh, trust me, we'll find out in a few minutes. I love how for a moment Kratos just wants to be with Kallio, but then he's just like, nah. And then just jumps right back into ending everyone and everything. Classic Kratos. Remember how Kratos ended the last game fiending for Zeus? Yeah, he brings that same "I want to speak to your manager" energy in God of War 3. Also, can we take a second and just talk about how awesome of a name that is? Why is no one named Kratos anymore? Anyways, he's here to do one thing. Oh, and we're not just talking revenge anymore. No, we're talking extinction. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Hera. Special K is doing Greek mythology John Wick style. The game looks marvelous on the PS3, and that's not a word anyone dare I usually ever say unless they actually mean it. The titans are all towering like mountains, and the gods are all grotesque, but in a beautiful monster kind of way. Oh, and did I talk about the savageness? I mean, some of this stuff is straight out of Mortal Kombat. It's extreme. That's still kind of putting it mildly. At one point, you're ripping off Helios' head to use it like a lantern. But that's nothing compared to what you do to Poseidon. You don't just beat him, you drown him. Which, can you even do that? I thought that was the one thing Poseidon was supposed to be immune against. Yeah, that's right. Oh, and the entire world. Anyway, you got the Blades of Exile, but now Kratos collects weapons like Pokemon. Like the Cestus, which are some giant metal lion gauntlets that turn gods into mush, or the Nemesis Whip and the Claws of Hades. Every weapon feels different, and every fight feels meaner. Oh, remember Poseidon? Yeah, surprisingly turns out you actually do worse things to the other gods. Hades, you drag him from his own soul and go Mortal Kombat on him. Hermes, or is that the bag brand? Pronounce it Hermes? That's the bag brand. Papa K rips his legs off mid-chase. Even the movement feels better. Climbing feels good, and the grappling with the golden fleece hookshot? Puzzles are still there, but kinda like any good meal, they're just the vegetables on the side and don't really actually get in the way of the actual good meal. But the best thing is the camera. It's finally free. Oh, kinda. When you want it, but it still pulls back to show you those dramatic shots that you really want to see. Like Big K looking like a flake of dandruff on a Titan's shoulder. There's blade play, Titan play, fist play, just no gunplay. Enemies swarm you in massive mobs. Sometimes they fly, sometimes they charge up or shield up, but the game makes you switch weapons on the fly, and with maps like giant temples, burning cities, and labyrinths, the whole game just feels like one giant boss arena stacked on another giant boss arena. But the saddest thing is, Cory Barlog bounced mid-development. Honestly, I don't even know who the dude is. I just really like his name. But that's okay, because another dude with a badass name stepped up to finish the job. Stig Asmussen. I'm definitely not saying that last name right. This game was so good, critics lost their minds. Not only was it the fastest selling PS3 exclusive game at the time, with over 1 million copies sold in just the first few weeks in the US alone. But not a single major reviewer gave this thing anything less than a 9. That didn't mean there wasn't a big problem. The biggest complaint people had was that it was too short. At only 8 to 10 hours, that's how long the fun would last before most people would beat the game. Also, spoiler, people really didn't like the ending. It's like, maybe he dies, maybe he doesn't.
You disappoint me, Spartan.
But the one thing that's certain, gotta milk that sweet, sweet franchise money. And again, there's some pretty funny glitches. But this time, we don't even have to wait a year, because just a few months later, we get Ghost of Sparta. This one's another PSP banger with snappy movement that works in tune with the PSP's tiny little stick thingies. Climbing, swimming, and rolling around Atlantis and the Domain of Death, which, great metal name by the way, is fun and surprisingly intuitive. The story's basically Papa K just ended Ares and has taken the throne as the new god of war, in a new episode of the Real House Gods of Greece. But our favorite bald brother just can't catch a break, because he keeps seeing visions of his mother and a brother he thought was long dead. So he heads to Atlantis and finds his mom, who tells him his brother is still alive. Now obviously he decides to handle it the way he handles everything. This time he's picked up some new tricks like the Arms of Sparta, which is some spear and shield combo that lets him jab dudes and block arrows. Plus a bunch of magic with cliche medieval names. All great stuff with one purpose: to help you slam your way through big sea monsters, undead soldiers, and Thanatos himself, who turns into a giant winged demon thingy. It's not Hydra or Poseidon scale, but for the PSP, it's beefy. And this time the AI is actually smart enough to make you switch tactics. But can we talk about this? Kratos just destroys Atlantis while using it as a pit stop. But I just can't get over how good this game looks. This thing pushed the PSP harder than Chains of Olympus. My PSP would turn into a hand warmer after 40 minutes of playing this thing. The backgrounds are detailed and the water looks nice. Oh, and the lighting? 2010 PSP has no right to look this good. Also guys, big shout out to Terrence C. Carson for lending his sweet, dark, aggressive baritone voice to Kratos. Made by the same folks who made Chains of Olympus, they proved it wasn't a fluke.
Come on, man! That's too easy!
With 2 PSP hits back to back, and even though people complained that the story was too dark. What game do you think they're playing?
Oh, it's always about you!
Almost everyone loved it because it gave us the things we all wanted. Family drama, blockbuster vibes, and Kratos raging against everyone and everything. Now, a whole 3 years would go by before we got another God of War in Ascension. That's like 10 years in God of War years. But this one's special not only because it's the first and only multiplayer online God of War game, but because it's the full prequel to the entire God of War story. It's set before every other game and before the Blades of Chaos became the go-to household item for Greek god cheek whooping. You see Kratos right after he's tricked by Ares into ending his whole bloodline, and he ends up getting into it with some furries. Wait, no, not that kind. These ones are 3 ancient sisters who punish oathbreakers like Kratos, who broke his oath to Ares. The entire campaign is him trying to break those chains, mentally and emotionally. Wow, that was poetic and deep. But this time they mess with the formula. Instead of switching to big weapons, you can pick up temporary secondary weapons like swords, clubs, or javelins. There's new magic stuff too. You can infuse your blades with elemental powers like fire, ice, and lightning, kinda like how Mountain Dew infuses their sodas with whatever chemical runoff they find behind the dumpster. But this thing is a beauty. I almost can't believe it's on the PS3. It pretty much looks like it could be on the 4. You get all the good God of War stuff, and by good I mean bleak and dark, but beautiful. Kind of like one of those really poisonous African snakes or frogs.
Hi! Oh, you're a big boy. Hi, you're so cute. What's your name? What's your name? Right there. Oh, hi. Vino Moose. Oh, hi, Vino Moose.
From huge living prisons to crumbling temples and oceans of red 40, everything looks and sounds great. Now while this God of War did try to do something innovative with the multiplayer where you're playing against 4 to 8 other players in some arena style brawler, it didn't stick around for the long term. But my favorite thing about the game is how everything just feels more agile. Grappling, sliding, and new platforming bits just feel better. But maybe that's just because Kratos has been doing more cardio. Even the puzzles are bigger, and if this kind of stuff gets you bricked up, now there's a time manipulation mechanic that lets you decay or restore stuff to solve rooms. But unfortunately, while this game is still great and God of War-ish, the story's just not as big or shocking as the other ones have been so far. So the game got mostly 7s and 8s, but that just goes to show you how spoiled we are when it comes to a franchise that's this consistently good. Because honestly, while this is still a good game, God of War has just set the bar so high. Another year, another game of the year, aka God of War. Except it'd be 5 years before we got another God of War game, and a lot of things have changed. The first thing you'll notice is how different the game feels and looks. This is straight up one of the best looking PS4 games I've ever seen. The world is filled with detail and the lighting is so nice, you almost don't need real light.
Excuse me?
Everything from pine forests, dwarven forges, and massive mountains looks amazing. Hell, even the world serpent's jawline is more defined than most PS2 games. But that's just the start. The camera is now always behind Kratos' shoulder, so you can see the weight of Bald Daddy every time he moves, and the combat feels way more intense and less arcadey, with every swing and dodge up close. Oh, and when it comes to maps, you get all the Heims. Nilfheim, Alfheim, Helheim, and even Muspelheim. That's a lot of Heim. The story starts with Kratos moving to the Norse woods after wiping out literally every god he could get his meaty hands on. He's got a wife. Well, he had a wife. She dies like 5 minutes in, but not before leaving behind some challenge for Daddy K. But of course, the minute he steps outside with his kids, some tattooed weirdo named Baldur shows up looking like your cousin who sells CBD oil outside his pickup.
They stole it from us.
Finally, the enemies try to flank you. But can we talk about Mimir? His talking head looking thing and how Kratos just divorces his head from the rest of his body and then just wears him around his belt like some lanyard he got from Hot Topic. The biggest change is from Greek to Norse mythology. The Greeks have been replaced by Odin, Thor, Loki, and others, and the weapons? Oh, we're gonna talk about the weapons, alright. You thought I'd forget?
Yes.
No more Blades of Chaos, you don't even start with them. Instead, you get the Leviathan axe. And this thing feels heavy and satisfying. Except wait, the blades do come back halfway through, and it feels like being reunited with a childhood friend. Kratos and his kid meet witches, dwarves, and a giant snake. Like a really big one. The sound design is amazing, because who doesn't love hearing Kratos going,
Boy, this way, boy. Boy.
Constantly. But the best part of the game isn't about just mindlessly ending everyone and everything around you. It's about not raising your kid to be a psycho, god-ending maniac. Because you're Kratos and this is his version of Dad Simulator. And that's why it won Game of the Year and sold 20 million copies. Hashtag Dad of War. And finally, we got Ragnarok in 2022. Dad of War Kratos is back, and with a bigger beard and more anger than a hornet's nest in a tornado.
You tripping, bro. You tripping.
Also, we found out his son is actually Loki. Not fully Loki yet, but like Loki light. Or like diet Loki. And things are about to hit the fan when Thor shows up and he looks nothing like Marvel Thor. Red hair, big belly, talks mad trash. Basically some Irish dude you meet at a bar at like 2 a.m.
I thought you'd be gone by now.
I can't. You're pointing a gun at me.
Oh, I forgot.
Odin's even creepier, showing up in your living room acting all buddy-buddy and then threatening your whole bloodline. Anyways, this time the kid wants to do his own thing, so he sets out to find the Norse god of war, thinking that this giant hippie might help him stop Ragnarok. Spoiler, that plan goes about as well as most Kratos plans go. Which is not well, it's the exact opposite of well. But along the way, he learns that maybe he doesn't have to end every god that he runs into.
Were you intending on killing me first thing? See?
The combat feels like 2018 on roids. Plus, you get this awesome spear, which basically turns you into a human artillery truck. You can even play as the kid. Yeah, that's all I have for that. Along the way, you run into one of the best things about this game, boss fights. You get big dragons, Thor multiple times, berserkers, and Odin. That slippery old bastard. Did I mention there's a giant squirrel that talks to you and throws magic acorns at you?
No.
Not one for gastronomic exploration, I see.
But oh, my favorite thing by a mile is the graphics. The snow, the light, the frost, lava, whales with cities on their backs, and giant wolves pulling the sun around. That's right. These are actually things that are in the game. It all looks insane. But clearly most people give them a pass on that because this ended up being the biggest PlayStation launch ever with 5.1 million copies sold in the first week. Fans and critics, everybody loved it. They were calling this game a masterpiece. But honestly, more than anything, it addressed the biggest complaint people have had about this franchise. The main story is now 25 to 30 hours long. It's actually good. It's beautiful, sad, exciting, funny.
My goodness, what a strapping physique.
How can a game make me feel all these emotions I'm supposed to be feeling from a girlfriend, if I had one? I have no idea what's coming up next for God of War, but if there's one thing this franchise has proved so far, is that it can't make a bad game.